Welcome back to Racing Across America. Very happy to be joined now by John McGary, now with Mahoning Valley during their racing season, but also the announcer down at Evangeline. Good morning, John.
How you doing, Seth?
Very good. Happy to have you back on board and talking a little bit about America's newest racetrack, Mahoning Valley out in Ohio. Talk a little bit about how it's been received over the past couple of weeks. I was online probably a few days after the opener, and was going and found a picture on Twitter from a racing fan. Monday racing, I think it was the first Monday at Mahoning, and it was a picture of a nice crowd sitting inside at a couple of tables, and the comment from the Twitter person was, when have you seen a Monday crowd like this at an Ohio racetrack? So it seems like the first few days, track's been very popular.
Absolutely. It's more than just, curious onlookers and that. We're right between Thistle Downs and Mountaineer, and we're also about 55 miles from Pittsburgh, so there's a pretty big population base in the surrounding area and a lot of horse racing fans.
Yeah, and as I say, the pictures look like it was a lot of fun and people were enjoying it. Talk a little bit about first few days, if you've noticed any track biases that people may want to keep their eyes on. I know the first couple of days, track was playing a little bit slow, but I think that's just a part of a brand new track and the maintenance people trying to figure things out at a time of year when maintenance is already kind of difficult. But talk a little bit about if the track is playing in any fashion that people should pay attention to.
Well, I think there is some things you have to pay attention to. It is a brand new track. It's my understanding it's the exact same surface as nearby Thistle Downs.
Okay.
Same dirt, same base and everything. Depending on how the weather plays out, the track plays differently. I would say when the track has water on it, it's much more pro speed. The rail has not really been the place to be. It seems like a lot of horses, even if they're on the front end, they tend to, the jockey tends to maneuver to the 4 or 5 pass. So, based on that and the way the horses have been looping and coming from off the pace, I would say the center of the track is probably the place to be. But we had some moisture on the track both Saturday and also on the past Wednesday, and the track was much more favorable to speed. Today we have clear skies, temperatures in the 30s. The track is either good or fast, depending on how much more moisture gets drawn out of the track, because it was sloppy on Saturday. So I would think speed will have a much better chance today than it has had in the first 2 weeks of the meet.
All right, and I've taken a look, just a kind of glance over at the card, and I noticed obviously it's a new meet, so everybody's shipping in, but some of the tracks are coming from Thistledown, Belterra, Mountaineer, those kind of places. Have horses shipping in from any venues stood out more than others?
Well, it's a really good question, Seth, and it's really been an exciting thing for me to see here. I've been at Evangeline for the past 10 years, and we've just basically seen horses that have been running at either Delta or the fairgrounds for the most part. Here we have horses coming from so many different jurisdictions. Of course, Thistledown, Mountaineer. We also have a lot of horses that are coming from Charlestown. We also have horses coming from Indiana Grand. We've had some Churchill runners. Belterra, of course, in the southern part of the state. But where we've had the horses that have had the best success, and this is probably not surprising, is horses from Woodbine and Fort Erie. For whatever reason, the Canadian form has held up very well here the first 3 weeks of the season.
Interesting. All right, so we'll keep that in mind. And finally, before we get to some of the racing, just want to touch on the human element. I pulled up the stats from Equibase last night. Current leading jockey, a familiar name to a lot of folks, T.D. Houghton. Obviously, it's early in the meet, but he has a slight lead. On top, as far as the trainers, Jeffrey Radosevich and Robert Gorham, they're tied at the top. And again, it's early in the meet, so the numbers are a little light, and these things could certainly shake up. But on the human side, who are you paying attention to?
Well, I think so far some of the jockeys, other than T.D. Houghton, would be Luis Gonzalez, and then a guy that I knew back in California when I was calling the Northern California Fairs, Jason Lumpkin. Just as talented as rider as you have. I mean, he's a really good jockey. Maybe he's not as talented or as successful as he was a decade or so ago, but he can still boot one home. And then, of course, like I said, Luis Gonzalez has really impressed me.
And I'll also mention, for people who watch Ohio racing, and this time of year, we've had Beulah in our mix on the network and on our handicapping shows as well. Edgar Paucar, he's down sitting, I'm looking, number 15 on the list. I have to think as the meet plays out, he's going to move up a little bit.
I agree with you. There's a lot of talented riders here, and, of course, Edgar is one of them.
Yeah, because typically he's sitting right up there at the top, and so it seems like, as I say, it's early in the meet, and folks are kind of trying to figure things out. I'm also noting Deshaun Parker. He's only made 4 trips over to the track, but he's got 2 wins. So it looks like if Deshaun heads over to Mahoning Valley, you got to pay attention to him.
Absolutely, and it's my understanding that Deshaun's going to be heading south for the winter. I think he's going to take pretty much most of December off, and I think he's going to go to Sam Houston, is what I was told in the racing office.
Ah, there you go. Okay, let's take a look. Before we get to today, I wanted to go back. I had a nice little stakes race on the card on Saturday. It was the Ruff Kirchberg Memorial Handicap, $50,000 on the line, a mile and an eighth. We're going to watch the stretch run here. The number 1, Jack's Fact, will be the winner as the 2-1 second choice. The 4-5 favorite, Plain Old Willard, came in off a couple of state-bred stakes races most recently, so was the obvious choice in here, but does get beaten. Nice race from Jack's Fact. Wins by over 2 lengths on a sloppy track on Saturday. What were your thoughts on the Ruff Kirchberg?
Well, Seth, like we talked earlier on in the interview, the track was much more favorable to speed on Saturday due to the moisture on the racetrack. The track was labeled sloppy. Jack's Fact had been beaten on the square by Plain Old Willard in his last 2 starts, but he was on the improve. He's a 3-year-old who's on the improve. You always have to watch out for those. And he parlayed a perfect stalking trip into a solid victory. I'm not convinced he's better than Plain Old Willard, but I certainly understand the victory on Saturday, and he really ran well.
Should toss in, since we mentioned jockeys, female jockey on board, Megan Fedlovich. There you go. Thank you. But female jockey out there as well.
Absolutely. There's several female jockeys that are out here. Of course, Jane McGrell is just coming back off a layoff from an injury. I think she injured her neck and her back. We also have Kim Cecil and another apprentice jockey, Kathleen Dragus. I'm still getting to know all the jockeys. There's no Cajun jockeys here, though, so I'm kind of having a little withdrawal symptoms from that.
That's hard to believe because it seems like there's one everywhere. That's such a hotbed of jockeys with those, the dirt tracks out in the backyards of people's houses and whatnot. Seems like one will wind up there sooner or later. All right, let's get looking at this afternoon and get some opinions on the Monday afternoon card out at Mahoning Valley. Just once again, what's the weather look like today?
Okay, Seth, it's partly cloudy skies. We're in the mid-30s. We do have a strong wind. It's a crosswind right now in the stretch. I'd say it's about 12 to 15 miles an hour at least. The track to me is either good or fast. It's still drying out, so it might start out good and end up fast, but we'll know in a little while.
All right, the opener today is a calendar condition claimer, $4,000 tags. These are fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. They'll go a mile. What were your thoughts in the opener?
Well, on paper, it's a 2-horse race, but I really feel it's a 1-horse race. The morning line favorite is the 5, Hunt for Colleen, and was beaten at 6-5 here on November 29th, but certainly has the credentials. But I'm going to try and beat her. I feel strongly about the 6. Winmore Gold has had good form over at Mountaineer, a couple of strong runner-up finishes in her last 3 starts. She's not a real big win type. Of course, this is a non-3 lifetime race, or non-winners of race in a year. Winmore Gold comes out of a non-winners of a race in a year 5 claimer and ran a 61 speed index figure. That's above par for this class. I think she's going to get the job done. She might not be the favorite, but she should be somewhere around 8-5 to 2-1.
Sounds good. All right, let's move on to the 4th this afternoon. Another calendar condition claimer. This time the tags are $7,500. These are 3-year-olds and up. They'll go a mile and 70. Your thoughts on the 4th?
Well, again here, I'm landing on a horse that's probably going to be the favorite. That's the 7 Kid Twist, claimed out of a Condition 5 claimer at Mountaineer, where he finished second. That was on November 19th. Now in the hands of trainer Gary Welsh. He's made 1 start at the meet, and that was a winner. He's going for 2 for 2. We just spoke about the jockey, Megan Pavlovich, won the stake race. She's a pretty solid rider from all that I can see in my 3 weeks of watching her ride. Kid Twist has a versatile racing style. I like the fact that he can go to the front, he can stalk, or he can come from off the pace. He's drawn outside. I think he's got a big chance in here, even though he's 5-2. He's my top choice. All
right, and we'll go out and look at the 8th this afternoon. The 8th at Mahoning Valley is a maiden $7,500 claimer for 3-year-olds and up. They will go a quick 5.5. Your thoughts in the 8th?
Well, I mentioned earlier when we asked about the horses that were shipping in from different jurisdictions, and I've really come to embrace the Canadian form horses. The 4 in here, Quinoa ships in from Woodbine, beaten double digits against slightly better. But like I said, the Woodbine form has held up very well. So has the other Canadian racetrack 4 Series form. I'm going to take the 4 Quinoa, 6-1 in the morning line. That might be a bit generous. I think we're going to get about 7-2 or 4-1. That's the price that I'm looking for. The 4 Quinoa, very strong selection in here. Even though she's cutting back in distance, I like her very much.
All right, sounds good. And good info on the Canadian horses. Good info altogether on a meet that is brand new at a brand new racetrack, and it's been in our mix since opening day here at Capital OTB TV. So we're happy to have you, John, in the mix with us on Mondays to give us some insights as we move along. Appreciate the visit this morning. Good luck this afternoon. We'll talk to you again next week.